Welcome to the Giving Voice to Depression podcast, produced in partnership with the A.B. Corker Foundation for Mental Health. We are your co-hosts, Bridget
and Terry. Each week, through intimate, candid conversations with guests, we explore different perspectives on and experiences of depression. We keep it real because the illness is real. We keep it hopeful because there truly is hope, in spite of what depression tells you.
We are not experts or therapists. We're sisters and best friends who live with depression and have interviewed hundreds of others who do as well. By sharing stories of lived experiences, we expose depression for the lying bully that it is.
Hi, this is Terry. If you have listened to this podcast before, you know that this is the part where my sister Bridget and I greet each other and talk about the episode's guest and topic. Today is the official beginning of a change in that routine. After more than 5 years of co-hosting Giving Voice to Depression, Bridget is stepping down. You don't need to worry about her. She's not sick or depressed or anything. She's been thinking about this for a while and decided that this is the time for her to move on and commit more time to her other jobs and responsibilities. Before she left, though, I wanted to ask her about the experience of co-hosting a mental health podcast, of talking so openly and regularly about topics that are often, too often, stigmatized and considered taboo, even for us before we started. Our own families, our siblings, partners, and children didn't know we have depression. It's not that we were consciously keeping it secret. I think it just never really occurred to either one of us that talking about our mental health struggles might actually help us manage them. So today and next week, you're going to hear two sisters turned mental health advocates talk about what they've learned about our hundreds of guests and about ourselves. Here now is my amazing and deeply loved little sister and former co-host, Bridget, giving her voice to depression. All right, so as we record, we have 311 episodes, and you are probably, other than me, the only person in the world who has heard all 311.
Heard and heard and heard and heard.
Exactly. Listened to, commented on, helped write, did some of the interviews for. And I'm just curious, when you think back on everything we've learned, after hearing all those interviews, after hearing all those people's stories, it's like, now I understand this about depression.
Oh, I don't know if it's one thing. That's a big question.
Oh, it doesn't have to be.
There are many takeaways.
Let's hear them.
When we started out our first opening statement for our first couple seasons, we shot out a number of how many people had depression.
300 million.
And we always said, that's not just a number, those are people. Mm-hmm. And that distinction is just absolutely ginormous and was our obvious, number one motivation for doing this, was that these are people. We are people, and we're people who aren't talking, and we're people who are in seclusion and isolation, and we're people who are hurting, and we're people who are faking it and acting like we're not, and we're people who don't have a clear trajectory on how to face it and how to challenge it and how to wrestle with it. It's such a circuitous path and such a different path for everyone. We often say that depression is different for everyone, and I always say, and okay is different for everyone. Being okay is a different manifestation for everyone. Some people are high energy, some people are not. So that was a quantum shift, right? To go from the number to the people.
Yes.
But now those people have names for me.
Interesting.
I didn't have a whole lot of people in my little world, and I am an introvert, believe it or not, so my world is sort of small. And, not that I don't have people in my life who struggle with repeatedly and ongoingly with mental health issues. I do, don't get me wrong. But now there are 311 people that I feel kind of intimate with. And they have allowed, us to potentially hear their story for the very first time, which even as I say, I choke up.
I know.
What an honor. What a tremendous honor. There's really no other word for it. That act of bravery and courage and trust, because not only are they coming out, if you will, But then they hand it to us, and we do what we do with it. And we have earned that trust, I think. And again, just wow, what a just thank you is really all I want to say. Like, wow, wow, wow. What a job we have, what a responsibility we have, what an honor this is, how important this is, how hard this is, how heavy this can be. But to have that number turn into Bob and Abe and Jennifer and, all of these people that now they're part of our lives, in a way.
Absolutely. And I think about them. I think, oh, I hope, so-and-so's doing okay. I know this is a hard time of year for him, or, I don't pretend I have all 300 people's anniversaries of their something traumatic in their life in my head, but I'm very aware, that they shared, as you said, a piece of themselves with us, and then next level trust said, here, now take what I said and, and edit it and distribute it to a world that can be very harsh.
Yes.
And it is, all those words you used, heavy and inspirational and an honor. It's all of those things at once. And it has been a journey.
Absolutely. 5+ years.
Yeah.
And when we started this, Terry, I know it sounds, maybe even like everyone says it. Again, I use that word cliche a lot, I think. But trite, I guess, is really where I'm at. When we said if we could change one person's trajectory, if we could make one person, whatever, fill in the blank, not feel alone, not attempt, not whatever, fill in the blank. Mm-hmm. And we know the vast spectrum of what that blank can be filled with.
Right.
But I think... I shouldn't say that. I know that we've had almost 750,000 listens.
More than
and
that.
Some of those might be repeat people because people have shared with us that they do listen more than once, particularly when they don't want to be alone. They put their headphones on and they're with us. We've had people tell us they've flown across the country listening to us nonstop, walking through the airport, sitting on the plane, everything. Mm-hmm. We've had people tell us that they listen to us for 8-hour shifts and driving home.
And to fall asleep.
To fall asleep.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, wow. And we know because people have reached out and said that because of something that they heard, or knowing that we were there, or knowing that they weren't alone as a result of hearing these shared experiences, that they didn't take their lives that night. Yeah. It's just, it's humbling, it's powerful, it's been an amazing journey. I've learned so much. You've taught me so much. This is more your world, to say the least, than mine. I had to get a microphone and I had to learn how to use the computer, even though I still haven't really learned how to use the computer. You've been so gracious in kind of, as always, Terry, as in every, now I'm going to cry.
You're right there.
You always take my hand and lead me.
No, I'm going to cry. Stop it. No, I wouldn't have done this without you. I told you that in the beginning. It was my idea. Oh, great. Now listen, we're both talking like this. I sound like Kermit or something.
Oh, my goodness.
But I wanted to do this. I believed I should do this, and I don't use that word very often because I hate the word, but I do believe I was supposed to do this, and I didn't want to do it alone, and it was like my little sister will do it with me, so it was thank you, because I wouldn't have kept doing it.
Yeah, it reminds me, I won't get into the details of what it was about, but when I was about 16 or something, you made a phone call to me about some family matter, and before you told me what it was, you said, say yes. And I was like, all right, she's asking, I'll say yes. Little did I know. But fast forward to this offer.
I was.
And you were like, say yes.
Say yes and then do it every week for 5 years.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Thanks. I appreciate it as well.
Way out of my comfort zone. But for that, I appreciate you too.
And I want to just go back to something you said before, because there has not been a minute in this project, in this mission, in this resource that either one of us has said, because of us, someone has blank. It's the stories, it's the guests. Because if you and I were just talking, they're going to find out with this episode how different it would have been than a real episode. It's the vulnerability, and it's the resilience, and it's the willing to say how far down you went and how hard you fought to climb out that gives someone else the understanding and belief that they can do the same. And that has nothing to do with us. We're what they say, messengers. We're the messengers.
Yeah, we're the microphone. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. No, definitely no ego involved in it for either one of us.
So if I asked, I'm going to ask, I don't know why I would preface it like that. Name some things you know about depression now as a result of having done this that you didn't know before.
Well, that's an interesting question, because even though I've experienced it episodically, I don't think that I ever called it that, related to it like that, looked up the symptoms. I didn't Google it. I didn't know much, even though I had experienced it, because I had hook, line, and sinker swallowed the whole experience as me.
Ditto.
So I think the big thing is that, is the word objectivity or subjectivity, that little bit of space between that internal reality that visits me repeatedly. Having a name, having symptoms, realizing it's not really, it's not all of me, it's part of me. It's not always there, it's only partly there. I see now the toll that it takes on the people that live with the people who struggle with depression and the caregivers. Yeah. I just see how it is not a linear journey, and I see how every single step of it is uncharted, even though it's well-trodden. It's not linear. It's, who do I go to therapy? Does my insurance cover therapy? Is this the right therapist for me? Can I get in? Are they accepting people? Is there a connection there that's really going to help me? Or is this a waste of my time and money as well? Should I go on meds? Which med? Which doctor? How much? The dosage? Should I go off of them? Should I adjust them? Is it time to think about getting help even more than that? Is it time to tell somebody more about my reality, which I personally waited way too long for? Oh my goodness.
Gosh, you're not alone, hon.
Way too long. It didn't, and I think part of that wasn't even hiding, or not all of it. It was, certainly I didn't want to be seen as that, but I didn't even have the space to know that it was like something I could even talk about, because it just felt like me.
Absolutely. I say, I don't want to say stupid, but I do. I feel kind of stupid knowing what I know now, that I had depression before. I had been on antidepressants before. And when I went into the horrible, long, awful, worst ever one I had that led to this, I didn't name it. I didn't think it was medical. I didn't go to a doctor. I didn't say, oh, crap, it's back. I didn't do anything except go to bed and withdraw and, as you say, hook, line, and sinker. Just bought it all. I am all of the things it tells us, right? Worthless. Worthless, worthless, worthless.
And you manifest your depression very differently than I do. So I think that, me always looking up to you, it's kind of like, oh, well, I'm not that way. I'm not in bed. I'm not tired. I'm not whatever, that's enough of that. But it's a very different manifestation. Mm-hmm. And so I think that even fortified my desire maybe, or the reality that I didn't identify with it.
Well, I never thought, to be honest, when you were really crabby, that you were depressed. I thought I was just, exactly what I thought, and I won't say the word, but it starts with a B and it's kind of itchy. I just was like, what is up with her? I never once thought, oh, I wonder if my sister's experiencing the same mental illness that I do, but has different who thinks like that? Right.
Let's use the word negative. I get really negative.
We'll go with negative.
And actually in our last episode, we were saying, it was the season in review, and we took a quote and it said, it doesn't mean that you're not aware of how blessed and lucky you are. Right. You can be simultaneously aware of and in touch with your blessings, mm-hmm. and in my case, still be pervasively negative, which seems like a juxtaposition that shouldn't be able to exist, but it does within me.
Because it's a symptom of an illness. You would never say because you are blessed because you have a blank. You like to say fill in the blank, a good partner, a nice living situation, whatever it is.
Dogs. Wonderful dogs.
Wonderful dogs. You wouldn't have COVID. You wouldn't have cancer. You wouldn't have diabetes. I mean, we wouldn't have that discussion about any other illness. So, of course, you can be grateful and blessed and all of those things and have depression.
And it's not all of you. There's still other parts that still exist. I'm still doing my job. I'm lucky enough to have always been able to still do my job, I should say.
Yeah, I have not been always. So anything that has surprised you, anything that when you talk about what we do and a friend says like, oh, wow, and you go, yeah, and I was really surprised to learn.
The pervasiveness of the messaging that the voice of depression internally tells most of us is absolutely the biggest surprise. Because had I known it, and now I do know it, I can't honestly say that I'll necessarily remember it or recall it up again when and if my depression resurfaces. But it tells us almost always the same messaging. It just hammers us with these negative internal voices and messages. And they're very, very, very similar. So I'm hoping, my fingers are crossed, that when I hear that messaging come through loud and clear repeatedly and incessantly, that finally, maybe this time, I'll actually recognize it for what it is.
I hope so too.
The voice of depression. And I'll say, aha, it's back. And hopefully I catch that earlier than I've ever caught it, because I know what I'm looking for now.
Right.
And the podcast has taught me, that there's just a myriad of ways, none of which are right for everybody, but how to kind of, if you catch it, and easier, I think, if you catch it earlier, how to kind of counteract that.
Yep.
If that's, I'm going to say the E word, if it's exercise, if it's going out in the sun, if it's watching what I'm eating, if it's watching who I'm hanging out with, if it's some kind of a routine that I need to kind of re-anchor myself in, if it's talking about it. I mean, the list is, we've learned, we call it a toolkit, but that toolkit has a lot of tools in it after 311 episodes. Yep. So my hope is I recognize it earlier, and that once I can put a name to it, I can sort of, I'm almost, as I'm talking, using too many words to the image as a scale, that I could put some things on the other side of that scale to kind of weigh it out a little bit and even it out.
So Bridget and I will continue our discussion next week. In the meantime, if you would like to leave a message for her, we have a recorder on our website, givingvoicetodepression.com. In the upper left, you'll see a red record widget, and I'm sure she'd appreciate hearing from you after all these years. Thanks for listening.
We truly hope that our podcast brings a little more understanding, helps you better articulate your experience of depression, or better understand how to support someone else's.
We invite you to join us for daily posts on the Giving Voice to Depression Facebook page and on Twitter and Instagram at Voice Depression. It is a comfort to be among fellow travelers on depression's dark road.
And remember, if you're struggling, speak up. If someone else is, listen up.